Welcome to Payroll Setup lesson number 30 on setting up the time off tab. As you can see, I'm in the Payroll Center screen and I've clicked open the time off tab. When you come into it, you will see nothing at the left here. So what we're going to do is work on setting up a time off record. Now, as you know, there are two sides to time off, the accruing side and the reducing side. So by setting up your time off accrual record or your time off record, we can accomplish both. We can tell the system how to accrue and which pay rates to reduce the time off when we pay them, say vacation, holiday, sick time, whatever you're defining as your time off records. When you click the New button on the toolbar, you are brought to the right of the screen where we set up the time off records. What I'm going to do is double click on an existing one to kind of walk you through the fields. Now, any time off record can be made to be active or inactive just by placing the checkbox in the active field or taking it out if you want it to be inactive. As you press enter, you're brought to the description field where you can enter a description of the time off record, and in the short name field you can enter a short name for the time off record that will appear on their check stubs. As you press enter again, you're brought to the pay rate drop down, and this pay rate drop down shows only the pay rates that have been previously set up in the pay rates tab that do not have a check mark in the accrue time off checkbox. So you may want to go check that quickly, because even if you're not going to have the system accruing time off, you may want to go back and place check marks in those pay rates that are the active pay rates so that we can set up the time off over here. As we press enter, we're brought down to the type drop down, and all this is just a small drop down that indicates what type of time off are we talking about: vacation hours, sick hours, or comp hours. And you can actually set up more than one time off record even within vacation hours or sick hours or comp hours, just for different types of accruing and calculating methods. Now, the calculation method basically tells Cobra how to calculate your time off or how to accrue it. So the most common ones, I think I'll just stick to those for now, and then if you have different needs, you can give us a call. But most of the time when people are talking about accruing time off, they're talking about having Cobra calculate a certain amount of hours based on the hours worked, and all of that is going to be set up in the levels. But so if you have anything different than that, give us a call and we can work you through what calculation method might best work for you. Now, keep in mind, even though time off does have two parts to it, the accrual side and the reducing side, if you're going to manually handle the accruing side, then it really doesn't matter what calculation method you select at this point anyway. The occurrence. How often do you want Cobra to accrue the time off? The most common occurrences, I should say, are to have it accrued every run or every time they're paid, or to do it once a week. I don't know why anyone would want to do it specific weeks, but that is offered in the occurrence drop down there. So I'm going to leave this at every month. So if we're going to let Cobra accrue the time off, we're going to have it accrue every time they're paid. They don't have to take it. You know, just because they've accrued, it doesn't mean they have to take it right away, but it just means that Cobra is going to be accruing it every time they get paid. So I'm going to leave the weeks alone because that really is irrelevant for this time off record. Now, what you're seeing down here is the ability to relate the vacation time off record, I should say, to all the different pay rates where you want to accrue time off. And again, only the pay rates where you did have a check mark in the accrue time off will show up down here at the bottom. So as I save my record, Cobra will automatically save it and show it in this list. So if I want to edit it, I can double click on it later and edit it again. But when I click OK, Cobra's going to open up the levels where if I want Cobra to do the accruing, then I can tell it how to do the accruing. So I'm going to go through these fields very quickly and give you a standard example of how a lot of companies do their accruing. Okay? So what I have are 3 different levels of accruing. So depending on how long an employee has worked for you, their accruing can be automated based on this table here. So if you accrue time off for the first year and then have a second level of accruing for the second to the 5th year, and then 6 years and beyond, this will work great for you. But this is, again, just an example of how you can set it up. So what you do is you work in the right side of the screen here, and I'm going to double click on my first record and kind of explain what we're doing here. I gave the description first year so that as a visual indicator you know that for the first year of pay, which is our first level in this table here, this is how we want time off to be accrued. So from the first month to the maximum month of 12 months in this record, okay, I want them to be able to accrue 40 hours per year. There can be a minimum of 0 hours per check and a maximum of 0.77 hours per check. Now, how I arrived at the 0.77 is, you know that we have 52 weeks a year, so I divided 40 by 52 weeks so that I know that a maximum of 0.77 hours will be accrued evenly per paycheck per the year, over the year. So otherwise you could say I want to give them 1 hour per every 40 hours worked on a paycheck. You could just have set this at 1, and then at such time during the year that they reach their maximum of 40, it will stop accruing at that point. So if you want to evenly space them once every 52 weeks, then 0.77 is the accurate amount to put in there. When you hit enter, you can go down to the quantity field, and the general rule here is that the quantity should be the same as what you have in your level. So if this is your first level, your quantity would also be 1. So I'll save that record. And then let's take a look at the second level of accruing. Now these are all up to you. You can have as many levels as you want, but these are great examples on how you do it. This is the second level with its description, and it's level 2. So after 12 months and up to 60 months, okay, or 5 years in this case, or if it's just 1 year, it could be 36 months up to the 3rd year, that kind of thing. The maximum has to correspond with the level that you're talking about. I want to accrue 80 hours every year, so they can get a maximum of 0 hours per check, or rather a minimum of 40 hours per check and a maximum of 1.54 hours per check. Again, if we were to take the 80 hours and divide it by 104 actual weeks, then we get down to 1.54 hours per check that they can accrue. Or you could simply put 2 in there, and then when it reaches the 80 hours for that year, it will stop accruing anyway. So again, it depends on if you want the accruing to be evenly spaced every paycheck, 52 paychecks a year, okay, or how often you are doing your paying. So I'm basing everything on weekly payrolls, by the way, too. I should mention that. As I go down to the quantity, again, that represents the same as the level, so I put 2 in there, and I hit enter, and I saved it. So you can have as many levels in here as you want, but your last level, let's take a look at that, represents, again, we've gone from minimum to maximum. The maximum on the level above it is the minimum on the next one. maximum becomes the minimum on this one. So this is 60 weeks to forever. You can have all 9s in this field on maximum hours, which means however many hours he works till the end of time now with our company. He can accrue 120 hours a year, 0 hours minimum per check, or you can set a minimum too, but generally 0 is the accepted one. Maximum hours per check, again, keeping our calculations so that we get an even amount calculated every pay period. This would be the calculation for the 3rd level. And again, the quantity represents the level, and I'm going to save that. Okay? So, the thing about this accrual table is if you're going to let Cobra manage the accrual, you can set these levels and how much to accrue per level that you want to be accruing. So you can have as many records in the levels that represent your different levels of accruing, basically. This ends the lesson on setting up time off accrual.